New level.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
New level, new level. New level, new level. New level, new level. I them turn Tony in a rebel.
I am Mazi KK Odeluga.
Mazi Ejikeme Obasi.
Na Mazi Oke Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Good afternoon and welcome to Straight Talk Radio, coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it, and as we always do on Saturday, I am Mazi Oke Okachuku with,
and I am Mazi Ejikeme Obasi,
and we will be joined by Mazi KK Odeluga when he shows up. Today, we are going to talk to you about everything Africa, as this is our All Africa Saturday. We thank you for joining us last Tuesday. We thank you for joining us even when we were not here 2 weeks before. But we're back, and there's a whole lot of things to talk about. The last time we talked, I think it was after the death of the former UN Secretary Kofi Annan,
yes,
and who was laid to rest, and actually had some people show up in Ghana to witness him being buried this week.
Yes,
beginning of the week. So we still feel the same way about Kofi Annan. We know that his time was symbolized by peace and his fight for peace, and also all getting along and making sure that the world is a safe and better place, and he will be remembered for that. And we wish him a restful place in the bosom of the Lord. I mean, he rest in peace.
Yes.
But since we are in the land of the living, we're going to talk about what's going on today and this day and age, this week and during our times. And we are looking towards Africa, where a whole lot of things are happening. Yes. The thing that I saw 2 weeks ago, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it, was there was a UN meeting.
Yes.
With all the AU meeting,
African Union
meeting, and the big winner coming out of there was not Africa. It was China.
Yes.
China came down and was handing off loans like Oprah, giving away cars to the audience.
Yes.
You get a loan, you get a loan, you get a loan. And all these African leaders were lined up, salivating and putting their hands out. I read an editorial in one of the newspapers, I think it may be Bloomberg, I'm probably misquoting it,
sure,
where somebody said, look, it seems like these people don't understand what a loan is. It seems like we are drawing near to the table to take this thing, not knowing that there is actually a payment. You have to pay what you're, you have to pay this loan. And that's not the worst part of it. The worst part of it is the way that these loans have always worked in the past is China will come in and do the study and then tell you what you need.
And how much it will cost.
And how much it will cost. They will do the costing.
Yes.
And then you give the contract and China wins it. And they will give you the loan for the contract that they're going to do. Oh, by the way, they're going to bring their own equipment. By the way, they're going to bring their own people. So you've given a loan, given a loan to do a project that China is going to come back and do with their own people in your neighborhood. So China is working and you're paying them.
Yes.
And they're charging you interest.
Yes.
And everything is done by China.
Yes.
I mean, I want to be China.
Well, I don't know if you also saw a member of parliament, I believe it was from Kenya, had spoken quite eloquently on this issue.
Yes.
In the sense that there is, while it is nice to have somebody actually put in development dollars in Africa, the problem is that you have allowed them become the judge, the jury, and the executioner all by themselves.
Yes, they tell you what you need. They tell you how long
How
it's
much
going to
it
take,
will
how much
cost.
it will cost, and they give you the money to do it. And they bring their own people and their company to do it.
And after that is done, they hold you responsible.
You still gotta pay.
There you go. So
You still gotta pay.
the sad truth
Yes.
is it goes right back to the beginning. Who is in government ensuring that the future of young Africans is protected?
Where is the vision to start with? If China is going to come in and tell you what you need, that means that you have absolutely no idea
Then why,
what you
why
need.
are you a government?
Right, what do you need?
Why are you
China
a
comes in
government?
and tells you that you need a railroad and they're going to finance it for however trillions of dollars.
Yes.
And they're going to bring the equipment, everything from their place and their own people to do it. And so what have you done for you haven't provided employment?
No.
You haven't, what have you done for the people? You just provided something. It's almost like going to the shop, giving your money to the shopkeeper, and they give you bread, and then they turn around and tell you, oh, by the way, I'm going to collect interest from you every time I see you. Actually, I'm going to come to your house every few years and collect interest because I've given you this one bread that you paid for anyway.
Well, and I was just in a forum where an engineer, is a Nigerian, that does, was involved in a lot of engineering work in the Middle Belt part of the country, was lamenting that 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, one of the Chinese employees he was working with was basically a forklift operator.
Yep.
He has just won a position as project manager
You just got to be foreign.
of a multi-million-dollar project
Yes.
that is funded by the Chinese.
Yes.
So you say now he comes to Nigeria
Yes.
as a forklift operator.
Right. And
Today-
all of a sudden, he's a multi-million-dollar project manager. Not anything wrong with somebody who may have actually had the knowledge as a project manager who decided to take a lower-paying job because that's what was available.
But that's not the case.
And not anything wrong with China who's looking for a way to actually make things available for their people, who are bringing their people to the global world to work and get experience and bring in their money for the work.
Yeah.
I have nothing wrong with that. What actually bothers me the most is the lack of vision and planning, that you are sitting and somebody comes and tells you what you need. That's the first place we went wrong. That China will come and do the study in your neighborhood and then tell you what you need
Yeah.
and then decide how they're going to fund it.
So because we are, we have the most experience with Nigeria.
Yes.
So you look at in the past,
Yes.
they have passed laws about local content
Yes.
and other such measures designed to ensure that Africans, or specifically Nigerians, do get a part of the wealth that is being created by these projects.
I remember that it was that tough that at some point Nigerians decided to tell other Africans to go home. Remember Ghana Must Go?
Yeah.
We decided that we
Yeah.
needed Nigeria for Nigerians
Well-
to get the job, and we told the people from Ghana who were flooding in, if you do not have an invitation, you got to go.
Well, and that's happening to Nigerians everywhere today.
Yes.
That's not even really what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the fact that the Nigerian government did try to ensure that all multinationals
Yes.
working in the Nigerian space
Employed.
were by law required
Yes.
to, first of all, pass off certain contracts to Nigerian-owned companies,
Yes.
and second of all, have a certain percentage of Nigerians that were actively employed in your carrying out these duties.
And it's not just Nigeria that does it. A lot of countries do that, where you have to make sure that what you're bringing is actually benefiting
But, well-
the people that you're doing it for, and actually having it's the way you take ownership. If you are part of the solution,
Yes.
then you will be part of the maintenance. But if you're sitting back and somebody's dropping something that you don't even know that you want and that you don't even need, when they are done, it's their thing, right?
The bigger issue is, so the Chinese come in. They come in with their manuals that are written in Chinese that virtually none of you can read.
That's right.
If you do not have a program to have every single position have an understudy, how do you begin to run it independently when it is time for them to leave? Or are you planning to have the Chinese run your economy permanently?
And that's where I was getting to, because I think what it is we could curse the British as much as we want for what we thought was the sins of colonialism.
Yeah.
We are doing the same thing with China, but this is voluntarily submitting to China and allowing them to do whatever they want, however they want it, whatever seems fit to them. And we are actually, I mean, we're giving up. We're submitting and saying, do whatever you want. It's your money. Come in, do whatever you want, and we'll be beholden to you forever if that's what it takes.
So I'm going to say something that is controversial right now.
Yes.
I want to refer you back to a YouTube video that is still circulating. That was an interview with, I believe it was Tafawa Balewa, or was it Ahmadu Bello? I think it was Ahmadu Bello.
Yes.
Where he specifically spoke to the fact that he does not want Nigerians, now Ndi Igbo,
Right, the Southerners.
well, to ever hold any position of trust in northern Nigeria, that he would rather give it to expatriates.
And if he said he will find them if they're not available. He will.
Yes, if northerners cannot fill the position, go and find expatriates to fill the position. But your fellow Nigerian cannot fill that, because this lies at the root of a lot of what is going on. If you have a government that does not see the country as one country, that does not look to find ways of creating a future, because that line of thinking presupposes that you will forever be alive and controlling the affairs, and the quote-unquote expatriates that you bring in will permanently kowtow to you.
There are always, I mean, the countries have their own interests. China, for example, which is a communist nation,
yes,
China can afford to do any project and print as much money as they want. If you ask the US will tell you that they are manipulating their currency, and one of the ways is they could print as much money they want. So they could give you as much money as possible. But if I am financing the project for my neighbor,
yes,
but I'm also the contractor doing the job for my neighbor,
yes,
and I'm also the supplier
supplying the equipment,
that I'm buying from,
yes,
I will give you as much money as you want, because my money is still in my pocket.
yes.
I am just turning around and paying me, and the only thing that happens is after I'm done, you pay the principal plus whatever interest I'm charging.
Yep.
And my money is still, it hasn't left.
And you put something, a surety against default.
Oh yes.
So that if I levy this unpayable loan on you,
yes,
you're going to keep paying me. Already, by inflating it many hundreds of percentage points, I have made my money, and I'm waiting for you to default so I can come back and take it back.
The other thing China is doing in Africa when they come in with these loans is they are negotiating oil.
Yep.
But they're also negotiating land.
Well, there you go.
Go down to Imo State, go down to Abuja, go to Anambra State. There's a huge amount of land that is being farmed by Chinese companies, and they're not farming the things you eat. They are farming the things that they're exporting.
Export crops.
And I don't blame them. That's good negotiations. But who is representing the people in these negotiations?
Number one, who are the farmers?
Right.
Number two, how does it benefit you? But again, you see, so it comes back to issues. I feel very strongly, very, very strongly, that it is time young Africans begin to wake up. The people who are signing away your future are in most part septuagenarians, octogenarians, people who are already at the end of a lifespan.
And these people, as much as they look like you, speak the same language as you, probably sleep in the same neighborhoods as you, are not from you. And
Are
I'll
not
tell
from you.
because they are
Absolutely.
contractors that have taken over power from the colonialists and the people that actually were not from you, that gave it to them.
Yeah.
And they have assured the generations of them coming by the a vast amount of your wealth that they have stolen and put in foreign banks, that their families who do not live anywhere
Amongst
in
you.
your country
Yeah.
are spending, going to the best schools,
Yeah.
getting the best jobs,
Yeah.
and living good life outside of your country.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at them and listening to them and thinking of all they're saying and doing without thinking for yourself first and thinking, how does this get me better? How does this assure my future? How does this assure the future of my kin? You're in trouble.
So, yes, I really think that. And don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Foreign direct investment is a good thing. So that's not the quarrel.
When it's done very well and it benefits the
There
both
you
parties.
go. That the point there is, if you want foreign direct investment, it must be negotiated to your own advantage. Unfortunately, the people in charge of your economy, the people who have stolen power in most instances, are not interested in looking after your welfare.
Talking about your economy and your welfare, in Nigeria, there's news from yesterday
Yep.
that the Minister of Finance decided to tender her resignation. Do you know that story?
Yes, I heard the story.
Yes.
And I assume it has to do with the scandal over the
That's what the resignation letter said.
National Youth Service because she did not serve.
Yes.
That is a given.
It's not that she did not serve. It's that the certificate that she had used to serve in Osun State and also to acquire her government job with the current administration is not valid. It is rather fake.
I believe she called it she said she got a waiver.
Right. And
and that waiver was fake. It was not. So, which raises the
a
issue.
waiver doesn't require a certificate.
A waiver does not
A waiver
require
is a
certificate.
waiver.
A waiver
But
is
she
a
got
waiver.
a waiver. Well, at least her explanation is that she was told, since she was outside of Nigeria, went to school outside of Nigeria,
Yeah.
and was older than 30 years before she got back to Nigeria to get her job.
Okay.
That she needs she deserves a waiver, because
Okay.
if you were in the country below 26, or I believe, you're required to serve. But she was 30 by the time she came back, so she qualified for a waiver.
Okay.
Except what she presented wasn't a waiver.
It was a certificate
What she presented was a certificate of completing
service.
the service. Now, I read her resignation letter as was published by Vanguard, and she says it's an honest mistake, and she didn't live in Nigeria and didn't know the process. She trusted that the people, and she'd never been to National Youth Service Corps office.
Yeah.
She trusted that the people she was working with were honest brokers, but she's realizing now that they were not, and instead of tarnish the office of the very competent and very honest president, that she thinks is the best thing to do to resign.
Okay. So I will you know what? On face value, I will accept that.
Yes.
It raises a question. Who submitted that false waiver?
It raises so many questions. She served in Osun State,
Yeah.
and she submitted that,
Yeah.
and nobody looked at it.
Well,
She's been serving in this administration for what, 3 years almost?
yes.
And this information didn't come out today. Since she started serving, this has come up. It's been written in newspapers. Why did it take this long for her to finally say, you know what? Well, okay, actually, I will tell you why it took that long. They had an investigation. The investigation just concluded
Okay.
after many years, and the investigation says this is fake. But that's actually not correct. why I say it's not correct is even before the investigation concluded last year, we knew it was fake. She waited for the investigation
Yeah.
before she said, okay, fine. Now that it's officially published that it is bad, it is fake, I resign. Which I still say right thing to do. I just wished we were. I would like to believe her, but it's tough for me to believe knowing that this is not the first time this information showed up.
One of the things our present president ran on was that he would eliminate corruption. How more corrupt can you be in forging a certificate in order to gain employment at that level of civil service?
Well, she wouldn't be the first one.
No. Let's not go and look at behind. Let's concentrate on this one.
It's happened before.
Somebody submitted that. EFCC. EFCC.
Yes.
Are they not supposed to do their job?
Well, they will tell you it's not financial crimes.
Really? And this is your Minister for Finance?
Well, if you put it that way, it sounds like a financial crime. Well, I think the better the. All right, I'll leave it alone. Fine. Wherever the corpse lays, let it be the grave, right? So I'll leave that one alone. She's gone.
Yes.
The thing now is we have a new Zainab Ahmed is the new finance minister.
Sure.
But before I celebrate the new person, because I think Zainab Ahmed is very, very intelligent, and I'll say that up front. I have nothing against her. I'll wait till I see
her
even the lady
and
that's
what
leaving.
direction she's taking us.
I
yes.
was impressed with her credentials when she took over.
Yep.
What I was not impressed with are the economic policies
that were implemented. There you go.
That drove the Nigerian economy from where it was
down
into
to its
recession.
Knees. Yes.
And actually, in her resignation letter, she was praising the president for his policies that got the country out of recession. I'm thinking, you can drive a car into the ditch,
and
then a lot of people work hard to push it out, and it's not even all the way out.
People are trying to push the car out of the ditch.
And you're celebrating of how mighty and powerful that you are, that you got the car out of the ditch.
But that is political doublespeak.
Yes.
And so that's a universal thing.
Why would you put the car in the ditch in the first place and then celebrate that you got it out and not tell us how he got in there?
Yeah.
The monetary policies, all the things that. The other thing is the economy looks like it's coming out of recession, which is not out, by the way, if only because we borrowed $23 trillion,
which has to be paid back.
So before this government took over in Nigeria,
yes,
Nigeria was paying down her debt, and I think I may be wrong. The last amount that I read that was still owed was about 5 trillion, which is still a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But to get to 23 trillion, that takes
trillion naira or trillion
dollars.
Wow.
So how much trillion is US in the red for?
That it doesn't matter.
No, but the size of the U.S., the economy of the U.S.,
that's the point.
And then compare it to that of Nigeria.
Yes,
if my trillions are wrong, if it's naira and I'm saying it in dollars, somebody
I think
please,
it's naira.
Please
I
correct.
think it's
please
naira. I think
me
it's naira. I don't think it's dollars.
I hope it's not dollars. I hope it's naira. But even if it's naira,
it's still
to go from 5 trillion
lot of
to
money.
23 trillion in less than 3 years.
Yeah,
and still. You look at what's going on in that country, and you look at the infrastructure, and you look at the projects, which I don't see any that is meaningful going on. You're wondering where the money is. Plus all the looted money that we've been reading and hearing of all these other governments sending back to Nigeria that Nigeria was going to give to the lesser of these.
Yeah.
So it's.
I think it is clear to everybody, including supporters of General Buhari, before he became President Buhari, that I'm sorry his administration is a failure. So we can just accept that now. Yes, prior governments have not exactly been stellar, but I think this government has done a lot of harm to Nigeria, the country. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know that virtually every financial institution, the huge establishments, they have all come out and given its government a failing grade.
Oh, I mean, think about it, right? When there was the run on the banks, if you will, almost all over the world, the same was happening in Nigeria, and the government at the time decided to do similar to what some of the other governments did by having banks merge and actually having some money in the bank, so that they merged a whole lot of banks and shored up the bank so that it wouldn't fail and bring all the economy down. Now, what has happened in the last few years is the same banks have laid off a whole lot of people. Merging hasn't made anything sure and safe. What they have done is actually increased a lot of fees that they charge to the people who are putting money in. And the other thing was the money policy did not make sense. Banned all kinds of, I mean, one is there are many different exchange rates in Nigeria, not just one. But also, you cannot repatriate funds as a foreign government that you have in Nigeria, because Nigeria cannot. There's not enough dollars
to repatriate.
To repatriate,
even though you brought it in the first place,
and cut down the amount of foreign exchange that's given to the banks. So instead of, say, they were getting $1 million every month, it became $20,000 every month for the entire banking system.
But that again, now, okay, so let's talk about banking in Nigeria for a minute.
Yes.
Because we are talking about the finance minister.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of things we talk about are macroeconomic and to deal with trade and monetary policy at that level.
Yes.
But let's move down to the level of the
person
individual,
trying to take care of their
individual
family, putting
Nigeria.
food on the table, right?
Okay?
Yes.
So you transfer money, you pay a bill.
Yes.
You use your card, you pay a bill.
Yes.
You sneeze, you pay a bill.
Yes.
You don't use your money, you pay a bill.
Yes.
Do you know how much Nigerian banks are taking away annually from fees?
The best job in Nigeria is to be a bank manager, because you've made it.
Yes.
Meanwhile, and that's what I don't understand. Well, I guess because the alternative is terrible. Nigerian government had made it tough for people to be able to carry cash, because if you're caught with more than, I forgot what the amount is, it could be seized.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to have a transaction with that kind of money in cash.
Yes.
As long as you're not a politician, because we always see
because when you see cartons of dollars and pounds,
whenever somebody is arrested, they show us all those money that are in cash.
And nobody is ever prosecuted under that law.
Yes.
But the issue is,
so the Nigerian government drove people to use banks because of the requirements. Now you're using banks, and there is no incentive for the banks to treat you as a customer. So all they do is extort you as much as possible.
Yes.
They have the coming into the office fee, not coming into the office fee,
sitting
knocking
down
on the door fee,
standing up
sneezing
fee.
while you're standing in line
yes.
fee.
So, a responsible government,
yes,
and I'm saying this hoping that there are people out there who can do something about this. A responsible government has a responsibility to protect her citizens against extortion. The banks are extorting money from ordinary Nigerians, many of whom cannot really afford to lose this amount of money.
Yep.
If you're a bank, go and do banking the right way banking should be done. Don't go and make billions and trillions of naira. It is unbelievable.
And I mean, when they decided they were going to shore up the banks, one of the things they did was shut down a whole lot of community banks.
Okay.
That eliminated that competition. That way, you can now have a community bank that actually serves similar to what we see here
like with credit unions. Yes.
So no competition exists, and so it's basically a monopoly of different stands. So your options are First Bank, ABC, Union Bank, which do exactly the same thing. So you just pick whichever logo you like best.
And they all give. you'll pay your quote unquote stamp duty. And come to think of it, I don't know that it is legal to tax people twice. So you tax a man at the point of income.
Yes.
He takes his money, puts it in the bank, and you're taxing that money, not his profit, not his interest.
Right.
Not his interest.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, it just, look.
But a lot of it are government policies because government sets some of those taxes.
Yes.
I remember that the bank governors, it was one of the debates, they were saying how much of this the banks will collect.
Yeah.
And then the banks on the other side of it add whatever other fee and levy that they have to.
So it's a racket.
Yes.
It's a racket. And so, coming back to where we live right now in America,
Yes.
you can understand why people feel very strongly that government should not interfere with their lives. Because it is for things like this, with no regard at all for what it means to individuals. You pass draconian laws that ends up, basically stealing from the people because you are a government. And nobody speaks about this.
No, it's just the way banks work, and everybody goes. But then we'll have a new finance minister. We still have a new bank governor, and the thing is, would anything change?
Well,
would it get better for the people in Nigeria? Would the car being pushed out of the ditch come out of the ditch? Could we really celebrate that this car is finally out of the ditch, although they drove it in there? That's my hope, is that we could say, all right, this economy is out of recession, but then what? We are beholden to China anyway.
Yeah, well, you're basically selling the country to China.
Right.
And it's not, the good news. The good news
If
in all
there
of,
is
yes,
one. If
there's
one.
wonderful news.
Okay.
It will unite Africa because the whole of Africa is being bought by China. So we can now become one country.
I will take a break on that note, and we will come back to talk about how that unites Africa. And you are listening to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station.
I am Mazi KK Odeluga.
Mazi Ejikeme Obasi.
Now, Mazi, okay, Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM, Our World as We See It. This program is a current affairs program that discusses what's going on in the news. On Saturdays, we discuss Africa. On Tuesdays, between 9 to 10 p.m., we talk about everything in the global village, usually focused on the USA where we live. But today we're discussing Africa, and most of the times when we talk about Africa, we center in Nigeria because that's where we know very well. So before we went on a break, we were talking about how all these that are going on with the banks taxing us, the government not caring for us, and us owing a whole lot of foreign debt, how that's going to unite Africa. And we're asking, does it really unite Africa? Because I'm looking at the AU summit, and I'm thinking, if this is going to unite Africa, it would have sense, because we've been living together. We've had AU for the longest time. We actually even on the west side have ECOWAS, which is supposed to be an economic community. But the thing that lacks with all these so-called economic organizations, including AU, is the cooperation. Maybe there's cooperation beyond the West. Maybe there's cooperation beyond Nigeria. But I haven't seen the cooperation of African countries with each other. Beyond that, you could, with ECOWAS passport, go across all the Western countries. Now, for a long time, Nigeria has been supplying energy to some of the neighboring countries, where, by the way, they do way better than they do in Nigeria, which is great.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I haven't seen, there's a whole lot of gold in Ghana.
In the Gold Coast.
But I'm pretty sure that all the gold being used in Nigeria are coming from foreign countries. There's cocoa in Ghana, but I'm pretty sure that we are getting our Nestle products all the way outside of Africa, that includes use of cocoa. I do not see the cooperation where we're saying, you know what, we know how to do companies. We know actually how to take cocoa
And
get
turn
to
it
the-
into
and,
Bonvita.
and get to chocolate or Bonvita and have that kind of cooperation and companies that leverage what's nearby.
Because at the end of the day, we still have leaders that I feel don't necessarily want that depth of relationship, because with it comes transparency, and it makes it more difficult for you to begin to place yourself or to do things that are anti-growth. Speaking of that, there is an African Development Bank.
Yes.
Where is it in all
ADB.
this funding?
I have no idea. I haven't. I mean,
So
yes.
this is an institution
Yes.
that is supposed to serve countries in Africa.
Yes.
Does it have a seat at the table when some of these deals are being negotiated?
Right.
So, at the end of the day,
I know. I see sometimes on CNN projects that they are saying that they are supporting. I'm hoping that's true.
yeah,
But with China doing a whole lot of work, with I'm sure that US and UK, with actually Theresa May being in a bunch of countries in Africa last month, with the Brexit
Yes.
coming and looking for new markets and new buyers.
yes.
This is the time for African Development Bank, Zenith, and all these other ones to step up and say, look, yes, even if the money is coming from China, it's got to get into a bank, and also we're going to actually have our local people get involved. If we are waiting for the government to make all that arrangement and all that rules, it's not going to work. But also, these are people that I'm sure have the ears of the people that are actually going up there and signing these loans up. Why are you not talking about these? Why? So I know that there's a whole lot of people going to run for president for
Yes.
Nigeria in
Yeah.
2019,
Yes.
and they're going to come up and make the same criticisms as I am making, but they've been part of the problem for a long time. They should have been part of the solution. They were close to some of the people that were in power even before the current government in Nigeria. And even with the current government in Nigeria, they are close with some of the governors. They're close with some of the ministers. Why is this not getting done? Why would you come and tell me that when I am president, it will get done? If you are not doing anything to check it now, if you're not doing anything to correct it now, there is no evidence that you will wait once you get in there.
Well, so yes, you're running for president. You come and declare yourself a candidate.
Yes.
You get somebody to pay your what, 42 million licensing fee.
How are they going to get their money back?
Well, talk to the nation, because the sad truth is, especially in the Nigerian context, we have dumbed down our populace so much that we no longer talk about things in a format that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are the issues that should be debated very strongly right now. Let me ask, how much is Chinese foreign direct investment in Nigeria today?
I wish there was just transparency or some place where
That's
it's published.
Well, so
Or
how much
government
is
records
it?
that are
What are
available
the
that we
terms
could
of the
look at.
loan? It seems to me that it would be a lot better if you would do these things as a private venture. In other words, you, the Chinese, you want to build a train, build your train, concession your train, run the train, we owe you nothing. If it succeeds, you make your profit over a certain period of time. If it fails, you fail.
That sounds like a great idea until we get the same negotiators that are negotiating this contract to go there, and the thing they'll come back with will be China running the train for the extra length of time, even however terrible the rail and the train is, that we still owe them.
But that's the point I'm making.
Yes.
You should not have that debt carried by the host country.
Yeah.
Let it be an investment China is making in Africa. So, for example, you can come here to the United States, buy a building,
Yeah.
buy a filling station, The government doesn't bother you. You want to buy by all means buy a filling station.
Yes.
Sell
As
gas.
long as we know where the money is coming from, yes.
If your filling station fails, that's your problem.
Yep.
The government regulates how much you can sell and where and how you can sell. That's the point I make. That's the kind of deal I would prefer for Africa. Let the Chinese, if you want to build a dam as part of an agricultural project that says, when I build this, this is agriculture, this is what we will take, sign it. I know that they will sign it in terms that are very favorable to themselves, but at least
Right.
they carry the risk.
You're just saying we don't want it as a loan.
Yes.
Build a thing
Yes.
and then recoup your
money.
You recoup your money from your investment
Recoup
and
your
run
money.
it for however many years.
And if you want to fill the country with Chinese to do their thing, let them do it. Because that way, at least the check and balance in that is
we're not owing you anything.
We don't
if
owe
it
you.
fails, it's your failure.
it's your failure.
If it works, then you reap the benefits.
So,
But I could see how it's favorable to Nigeria, but the Chinese government is thinking
then they can keep
the
their
risk
money.
is way too much for
Then
me.
they
It's gonna
can
be
keep.
shared risk.
Then they can keep their money. The reality. Okay, so you look at Nigeria. What's his name? Is building a huge refinery in Lagos.
Okay. Ooh.
Not Dantata.
You're talking about the richest man in
Yes,
Africa.
yes.
Now you made
Okay.
me forget his name. Yes.
Well, that's okay.
We'll get to it.
He's building a refinery in Lagos. That's probably the biggest refinery
Finally,
in Africa.
thank God.
His money,
Yes.
his risk.
Yes. And now when he finishes and he starts raking in money, people will be against him like,
The man
It
who
wasn't-
owes Hydro,
yes.
not Hydro, or Gatwick.
The
is-
fund that
yes,
manages the fund.
okay.
Yes.
Just bought a rail line somewhere else in Europe, owns it 100%. He can afford to build a rail.
Akuluono, right?
Well, that is part of Akuruolo. Absolutely. And let me point out
Yes.
that Nigeria was, quote unquote, a horrible place to do business until
Corruption. right,
until
right.
MTN decided.
MTN is African, so they could get away with doing business with a corrupt country because they're already in Africa.
They have made a killing.
They have shown how it could be done.
So the fallacy is that they are doing you a favor. They are not. Nobody is doing you a favor. They are ripping you off.
And I'm not trying to rail on China, just like the
it's
rest of the
Yes.
the West will do, because China is doing what they have not done.
They
They focused on oil and kept milking that, and China is finding other ways to invest in Africa. And now they're ripping China and saying how it's going to be subpar, there's no quality, how the loans are unfair, and well,
Do you know when John Holt came to Nigeria?
yes,
Do you know when
RNC and all those.
all these the Royal Niger Company? How long have they been in Nigeria? What does Nigeria have to show for it?
Nothing.
So
Julius Berger has been there for ages, and it's the same thing that actually
Europe
the Chinese
has-
companies are perfecting what those companies did.
absolutely. So it is not an issue of the Chinese in
Yes.
terms of the Chinese. The reality is that this is a new wave of colonialism coming
Yes.
in, and the only reason the West is screaming and shouting about it is
It's
that
because somebody got there
more-
before
There
them.
you go.
Somebody figured it out before
It's
they
not
did.
because they have any feel. It's like
They
I
have
was,
state interest to protect, because if China gets in there, say that China got in there and did it right,
Yes.
and hired a bunch of local people, and was still able to make money on their investment, and then people will love them and they will get more, and they will get it more.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, a lot of Nigerians will be learning Chinese, and a few of them are already.
Yeah.
And everybody will start actually trading in yuan instead of in
Yes.
dollars.
And suddenly there's a parallel market.
Whoa, what happened? That's what the fear is for the West.
Absolutely.
Not that China is doing anything different than what the West is trying to do. It's just that China is doing it much better, much faster,
Well,
and much more embedded.
in an area traditionally controlled by the West.
Yes, China is outshining you
Yeah.
at your own
Yeah.
dance.
So no, this conversation is in terms of what's happening today.
It's about the
It-
people
yeah.
that are being used for the football.
Yes.
It's not about the people playing in the field.
Yes.
It's the football
It's
that
the
is being
football
kicked
we're
around.
talking about.
It's Africa
Exactly.
as a football being kicked around.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, Africa is still getting kicked. It doesn't matter who's kicking.
Who's doing the kicking, and so the question is how long?
Yes.
How long? And the sad part of it is, it's not that you don't have a lot of very smart people who, incidentally, are right now speaking out, but those voices are silenced because at the level of corruption in the top echelons of government, we are signing these deals as fast as we can for what is in it for me.
But then somebody will look and say, but you elected those officials. They are representing you.
Well, so it goes back to...
So it goes
yeah.
back to what we always say, and I think we always land on this, which is elections have consequences.
Elections have consequences.
And whether you think it's selection, especially those in my neck of the woods, in my area of birth, who keep saying that they don't care about election, all they care about is one single thing: cancel the elections, let's do a referendum,
Yeah.
let's decide if we're going to stay or go. And I keep asking the questions: what happens if you get an agreement and somebody says, all right, cancel the elections, we'll just do a singular referendum, and we do this referendum and it doesn't pan out the way you think it is?
You're actually looking at it.
No. There's this confidence that
Yes.
if there's a referendum, an overwhelming majority of the people will say, we're getting out of here. What if we do the referendum during Brexit? A lot of people thought that this referendum was just a waste of time because everybody will come to the table
and
and
then
cooler heads will prevail.
Yes.
And what happened? Now we are they are still negotiating how to get out of something they said they were going to get out of.
Well, and
it hasn't been an
and
easy
you're having-
negotiation.
And there's a lot of second thoughts. But the to speak to what you just alluded to,
Yes.
to call a spade,
Yes.
for those who are agitating for Biafra or nothing,
Yes.
many of you were not old enough
To know what Biafra
to know
is.
what Biafra went through. But you do have older heads that know.
Yes. Wiser.
Good. One of the lessons of Biafra is that countries, they may love you, they may feel torn about your plight, but they will always vote their national interests.
Yes.
Today you
We're
see
going
the
to ask
today,
how does
today-
this benefit
benefit
me
me?
eventually?
So we are talking about China pouring in trillions
A lot
of
funds.
dollars.
It's investment on their part.
And then tomorrow you're going to say, I am going to do a referendum
I
and
want
kick
China
them out.
They invested this whole money. Why would they want you to kick them out?
My dear, you do not understand
No.
what is stacked against you.
Yes.
So it is all interconnected. It goes back to what we have always said on this show. The easiest way forward is to go and get involved politically.
Yes.
So, for example, yesterday
Yes.
was the 14th,
And-
September 14th,
And the proscribed
yes.
indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, made an announcement, which I saw the day before, by the way. I don't
Okay.
know how early they announced it,
well,
but
it was. People heard it earlier,
But
but
they
go ahead.
announced-
Yes.
that on the 14th, that in the east, actually certain places in the east,
Mm-hmm.
not everywhere, that the markets were going to be closed.
Mm-hmm.
No people were going to be allowed on the road. People should just stay home because they want to use that day to mourn the people who died during Python dance and has died for this whole struggle
Yes.
of Biafra.
Yeah.
And the announcement. So I'll talk about the announcement from my own point of view. When the one I saw on YouTube, I don't know who that guy is that was playing the ogene and making the announcement, but I was appalled at the tone. Because I think if you're talking to your brothers and sisters, you shouldn't be that mad, especially when they did nothing to you, when there is no provocation. But the way he was saying is this is me laying down the law and a commandment that you must obey, whether you like it or not, because if you don't, the consequence is we are going to make your life tougher and harder. And know that it's not even a conversation. It wasn't even we agreed on your behalf or we will want you to join us. And maybe it's because of my demeanor, I don't like commandments that that have no benefit to me.
Yes.
You're causing me harm. You actually, and what you're saying is not bad. It's a good thing to have a time of solemn reflection and try to come to terms with what is it really we are struggling about. But to come to me with that kind of tone, at least the one video I saw, my response to it was that,
So my response to that is that, first of all, I have sympathy for where they're coming from.
I understand.
Okay, so let's begin there.
I want to be funny a little bit, but I know it's going to be a terrible joke, but I'll still make it anyway.
Okay.
If you're white and you're listening to this radio station, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Chris Rock made this joke, but I've heard it way before Chris Rock made it, and I still laughed, which is Chris Rock said, we know OJ, and we know who killed Nicole, and he said, OJ, we understand.
Yes.
That's a terrible joke because it's almost like saying, we know OJ killed Nicole, but we understand that he got away with it.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way I feel when I understand the people that are fighting for Biafra and trying to get it. I really, really do understand. But if you ask me, I think you want to carry the other people along with you.
Well, so yes, and to tell you the truth, if you look at least the public face,
yes,
I know it's the tip of the iceberg, but the people you see that come out strongly, that march on the streets, that lay their lives on the line,
yes,
and often lose their lives,
yes, because there are consequences.
These are young men and women, the future of any society. They have not gotten quality education.
No.
The laws of the country have been designed specifically to put them down.
Yes.
They are denigrated. They are denied basic decency in their country of birth. So I do understand.
Anybody who sees what's going on and understands what's going on, understands the plight and understands where they are coming from.
And the anger.
Yes.
My problem is that the people who are leading this movement,
who you think understand the same thing,
should know better to channel this energy into activity that will be beneficial. There is, there is a famous poem for those who like literature that was written, I think it was during the Crimean War, where a British officer asked a cavalry to charge a position I think was held with Russian artillery, and they were decimated, and it led to the writing of the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. And I would like those of you who are able, pull up that poem, because what it does, it exemplifies the futility, knowing that this is something, it is suicide. You still go ahead and throw people.
Kamikaze yourself.
There you go. So, because part of what we have said is, if you want Biafra,
if you want change,
why don't you go about it the way that assures you the
maximum benefit?
Look,
minimize your risk as much as possible.
I saw video of young men marching with Biafran flags singing.
I saw that for yesterday. Yep.
If the army had come and killed all of them,
What
it is a
defense?
proscribed organization.
What defense did they have?
There you go. Why are you not
And
mobilizing these
Did
young
anybody
men?
speak up the first time it happened, or the second, or
Well,
the third, or the fourth?
That's the point. So why are you not mobilizing these young men and women, first of all, to get their PVCs? Second of all, to man every single polling booth in
Actually-
your Biafra.
I know it's late to start a party now. The thing to do for the next time after you get your PVC this time is register your own political party. If you have this many people
Yeah.
listening to you, understanding you, why don't you take over your local government? Why don't you take over your state? Then you have representatives that are sponsored by you, that are part of your party, that are in there in the room where the conversations are being made, who could fight for you, say the same things with everybody sitting at the table.
Well, because Anambra State had elections.
Yes.
Chidoka was supposed to be the quote-unquote Biafra candidate.
Where did he end up?
A distant, fourth or fifth? Why? Because all of you boycotted.
Because they asked them to sit down and everybody
There
sat down.
you go. So you all sat down. Now, even if he had not won,
But-
if he had come in second
Yes.
and had a very strong showing,
That is just a statement to the rest of the people to
that
shape
we
up.
are here.
Yes.
We are here.
Yes.
And next time an election is being held, somebody is going to look for you to say, let's cut a deal. Because at the end of the day, that's how you negotiate life.
That's how you win a nation.
Well, the second example I'm going
That's
to
how
give,
you build a nation.
something we said again in the past.
Yes.
Women came out to
Ask the
protest,
question of the
where
governor.
yes,
And they got thrown into
all 117 of them
detention, yes.
thrown into detention.
And what did you guys do to get them
IPOB,
out?
You could not. Eh? So, a lot of Easterners
Yes.
have sympathy for your cause, but cannot begin to identify with you
Oh,
along
Jiosa
the
Abago-
direction.
Abago- Abazo-
Amahonogu. So,
I already heard you more Korobia, man.
again, I say this. You have sympathizers because a lot of people understand the reasons behind where you are going.
Yes.
All they are saying is go in a direction that carry people along with you. Otherwise,
Remember to all this noise about how much our power and our voice made people not go to market. It's all well and good. So they didn't go to market the one day and nobody came out in the street for one day and you were able to beat your gongs and drums and sing around along the street, carry your flags and go, and then you go home. You may call it again and people do the same stuff. They don't come out. After a while, it will be like the guy that cried wolf because people will start asking the question, by the way, why am I doing this and what benefit? Yes.
Which incidentally ahụwala these
Oh,
days.
there you go. Yes. Oh, there goes another.
So let me shift direction a little bit because in a way, it also speaks to this Biafra issue.
Yes.
What's her name? Adichie.
Chimamanda.
Adichie put a op-ed
Yes.
talking about southern Cameroon.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
And
I was impressed by that.
I applaud her
Yes.
for being a voice for the oppressed.
Yes.
Because
For being a human being.
for being a human being.
Yes.
For being a human being. And again, it saddens me. It saddens me that a lot of Nigerians that live in the southeast, and when I say southeast, I'm now adding southeast/south-south, okay?
Yes.
Or the southeast parts of
The
south-south.
neighbors to the suffering
Yes.
Cameroonians. Yes.
These are people with whom we have had relationships that date back.
They were once part of southern Nigeria.
Yes.
Yes.
I heard that even those ones that ran across to seek refuge in Nigeria are being repatriated back to Cameroon.
The Nigerian
to face
government promptly
prosecution.
arrested and handed them over. But also, I know that the Nigerians they may be mad because of what happened with the Bakassi and giving it back and some other fighting that happened. But you will now they do not move.
But it's not
And if
even
somebody is looking for a refuge, why would you hand them over to people who are going to torture and kill them?
it is not these people that gave Bakassi to the Cameroonians.
No, your Nigerian government did.
And it was not negotiated with these people.
No, it
It
wasn't.
was negotiated president to president.
The
Was it
consequence,
Ahijo then?
There were casualties in
Yes,
the negotiation.
This is all part of the fallout of the Biafran War,
Yes.
of which, when you talk about casualties, we tend to look at things and forget other things. All of these are casualties of quote-unquote Nigeria-Biafra War. But
Yes.
you look at places like parts of Cross River State,
Yes.
and then parts of
Abakaliki. Yes.
So, I am looking, images.
Yes.
Images. I do not know if you saw the governor of Ebonyi State.
No, I didn't.
Don't know what he was celebrating or not celebrating, and made his cabinet wear children's school uniform. And you see a bunch of ridiculous people with and I'm thinking,
Well, it's the same thing they do all the time. So Buhari is terrible in the east, but if he happens to visit, everybody has a uniform with his face on it, and the roads that he didn't make happen, they will line it even with their clothing like Jesus is about to walk through, so that he could drive past, because they are expecting that there will be some crumbs that gets thrown from the entourage that are passing through. It is a shame.
the south, parts of the southeast and south-south that border southern Cameroon should be advocating very strongly, especially Ndi Igbo.
Yep.
And I will tell you why. We went through 3 years of hell,
Yep.
and most of the world turned their back on us.
Yep.
It was countries like Gabon, Ivory Coast, Tanzania, Haiti, that had the moral fortitude
Yes.
to come out and speak out against evil. A lot of individuals, the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, and volunteers across the world gave time, energy, and in some instances their lives
Yep.
to
Trying
keep
to
you
save, right.
alive by running a humanitarian feeding mission against the Nigerian blockade.
Yep.
And many Ndi Igbo, including some of these people that are governors in these Igbo states today, are alive today due to the beneficiary of people of conscience.
But how soon we forget.
Governor Umahi,
Yep.
I think it's time for you to go. Frankly, you need to go.
I like that you call them by name.
Yes, I am going to start calling out people. Umahi, it is time.
Which
Igari
of-
to
which
Konyo
of-
Ozobata.
Which of them are going? None of them should be staying.
None of them should be.
None of
Actually,
them in
none of
the-
them
in
should
the
be there.
south
None of them.
Should be staying.
Is it Imo State or Abia?
Rochas is a god. Rochas has no reason to stay, but anybody that Rochas says I like should never be allowed
Well,
anywhere in the office.
So it is, I think, again, I know there is a lot of difficulty. I know there's hardship.
Yes.
Some of us, we do travel to Nigeria. We see how it is, how difficult it is to navigate your day to day.
And I know some other people will tell me how tolerant Nigerians are, and it's about time we shed that whole tolerance thing.
Nonsense.
Yeah,
And yes, yes.
We somebody's in Ejiro Afwa Maomu Chineke. That means you don't have to have it so bad to prove that you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Please, if something is not the way it should be, say it is. It's not how it should be, and work to get it corrected.
Yeah.
This whole I am tolerant, I could deal with it stuff, it may be good for you, but it's not good for your children.
And so, we are now in September.
Yes.
We are in September. If you look at the social media,
Oh yeah. Paper tigers.
all of it is presidential.
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't matter which media you go
there's,
for.
There's
Yes.
a lot of Senate, but it's all about the center.
Yeah, center.
It's about the
It's about
Congress.
yes. Okay.
Nothing about the local.
Yes.
Nothing about the state.
And yet, all politics is
Local.
Where is the
And if you don't know
movement?
now, Mama,
And
when
as you know,
happen, you can't just get pretty. When you get there.
So you come to a state like Imo State,
Yes.
where even the blind can see.
Mabu na akpube ha by now.
Even the blind can see
Yes.
that Nsobode.
Yes. We're
And yet I have not seen a coalition come together dedicated to make sure that there is a change of direction.
Is this trick that they're playing with you where they have APC into two and one is anti-Roches, but it's still the same people. So if you end up thinking that you're getting rid of Roches with somebody who's been with Roches from day one but just changed in at the very end, you end up with the same thing. Birds of the same feather. Actually, I will say it in the language that some people like. Birds of the same plumage congregate together.
In the nearest proximity.
That's right. So
have you heard any gubernatorial aspirant come out to say, these are the things that are going wrong, and this is what I want to do to right it?
Yes. Nope. Not that. I mean, all I've seen are people who are running for either president or Senate.
Yeah, no, I don't care about those. I'm not talking about
governors.
governors.
The people that are running for governors are taking pictures on Facebook with their certificates or with people wearing the same signs as them and putting up their things, but nobody. And we talked about this weeks ago where we said this is the platform of the parties.
Yes.
This is what the parties believe.
Yes.
Ask those people who are coming around, where do you rank? Where do you sit on these? What are your set of ideas and ideals? How does it compare with your party beliefs, and who are you working with, and what are you going to do? None of them have started answering any of those questions, and if you don't force it, you're going to be stuck trying to pick which picture looks better, because that's all you got.
That's the question I'm asking right now.
Yes.
That's the question I'm asking right now. So, Anambra.
Yes. Anambra
I saw actually an article where somebody was saying that all the gains that Anambra has made are being lost on the
wiped, and Anambra is going into debt, and all the roads that were actually I saw a video of a road that was broken into two with a big gully and erosion washing away. I mean, so there's a big gully in the middle of the road.
Yes.
And even if it was shoddy construction, even if something happened, that we stopped continuing to do better in Anambra, not just in road construction, but in education and all the stuff, that we stopped inviting more, having public-private partnerships. That the unemployment just started going up, the rate started going up instead of down.
Yes.
It's a terrible thing.
Yes.
And as much credit as you give to or take away from P2B, that a new government came into power, no matter how terrible the recession is, there was a good footing.
There was a foundation.
Ngige, or whether it was from P2B, or however it was, there was a foundation to build on.
Yes.
That what we are seeing is an erosion of the foundation. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
Okay.
It's almost like Anambra is competing to go the way of Abia and Imo State. It's almost like they don't want to. We can't just be a shining city on a hill all by ourselves. We're gonna go down to the darkness.
That raises a question: who can come out and say these are the things? So, like I said, I saw a criticism that was not made by a gubernatorial aspirant.
Right.
Who will have the courage to come out and say, "This is what is wrong. This is what I will do to fix it"? Give us a manifesto that we can at least talk to.
When is the Anambra governor again in the U.S. and in Chicago? And why I'm asking this question is I wasn't invited. Even if I was invited, I think I have to dry my hair that day. So for those who are going to be in the hall,
Okay.
I know that there are other people who are already going to be in the hall and have their proposals for projects and have their hands out and have a whole lot of things that they are hoping to get from the governor.
Yeah.
For those that mean very well, the only condition for terrible things to continue to happen, for atrocities to continue, is for men of goodwill to keep quiet. If you
Yes.
consider yourself a man of goodwill and you find yourself in the same hall with the entourage from Anambra State in Chicago, and you don't ask, what have you done with the state? What are you doing with all these problems? How come things are going backwards instead of front? And you're hanging out with the praise singers, and you come out tomorrow to tell me, well, you know, I didn't have it. Shame on you.
Shame on you. I agree.
Shame on you.
So, go over to Imo State.
Yes.
Okay. In Imo State politics, there are 3 senatorial zones. There once upon a time they had a pact that governors would be rotated from each zone.
Stop right there for
Okay.
a second.
Okay.
This is the worst idea anybody could have about anything. The thing about rotating to zones.
Yes.
Are you telling me that intelligence is rotated and the best person travels from zone to zone? This is the problem. We are so divided that we can't see our left ear from our right.
Well,
Why would you want to rotate? Why would you not want the best person with your best interest at heart to be at the leadership realm? Instead, you want your brother who you know to be a crook anyway. It doesn't make sense for this zoning thing, whether you're zoning presidency or zoning governorship or zoning local government. It happens in my neck of the woods. Somebody was actually wrote that Igwe Nnewi had approved that it is Nnewichi that will represent Nnewi. I read that. I'm thinking, worst idea ever. Why would we go looking in a specific spot?
well, localize the search to only Nnewichi. Well,
If you're looking for something that is good, something that is lost, you don't just say, you know what, I'm going to cut the room into 4 and I'm going to pick the one on the left and I'm going to only look there. If it's not there, that's it.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Well,
Go ahead.
so, for whatever it's worth,
Yeah.
because that we speak to the politics of today.
Yes.
The Owerri senatorial zone is yet to produce a governor.
Maybe they don't have governorship
Olu has
characteristics.
several.
Yes.
Okigwe had a Hakim that was truncated.
Oh, yes.
Hmm?
Onyempiawazu.
Now, the other zones, Okigwe and Owerri, always come out to say Olu rigs things so that they always produce the governor.
Okay.
I said, okay. Rochas is trying to get his son-in-law, who is from his senatorial zone.
Yes.
Hmm?
He's a man.
Okay. If Ndi Owerri
Yes.
and Ndi Mbise,
Yes.
because these are the 2 big blocks that make up Owerri senatorial zone,
Yes.
if you cannot come together to provide a consensus candidate and go and work out something with Okigwe zone,
You mean they have to negotiate?
well, there you are. Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
that's politics for you.
Our people don't
That's
understand
what,
politics.
so Imo has a very strong IPOB presence,
Yes.
but we know they're not going to vote because they're
Well,
not part of the
Because
system.
if it's not, if we're not referendum, we're not voting.
Well, so because these are the factors
Yes.
that will have Rocha's son-in-law
In power.
coming in as the
and
next
you will
president of
cry
Imo
as
State,
much as you want.
and the blind will keep singing.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. And the same things will keep happening, and we wonder why there are so many people,
And
so
then-
many
yes.
effigies in
Yes.
Imo State,
Well,
but nothing else being
Well,
done.
there you go. So, you go to Abia.
Yes.
Of course, Abia, I think when you mention Abia, you start crying. because
Well,
it is.
I'm
yes.
glad they're out of the courts. I'm glad that they that at least it seems like there is a governor
Yes.
in office.
Yes.
But then, what else? What do they have to show for being in office?
Again, talking about, I heard that the Chinese are coming in to bring in a huge shoe factory.
Oh wow!
Into-
What was Omar here and some of the other places in Imo known for before?
Abba.
Abba. And
When I was
what happens to local people when we bring in this foreign?
when I was in secondary school,
Yes,
into early college,
yes. Abba made.
Abba is where you bought your shoes. They
Yes.
were made there.
Yes.
You could go there, pick your leather, pick your style, and come back and pick your shoe.
Local industry.
And now you're going to bring in Chinese to bring in cheap
The
knockoffs
shoe industry.
and kill.
The local market.
Eh?
And by the way, like we talked at the beginning, China is going to come in with their factory,
With their factory.
and they're
Leather
going to,
comes from China,
And-
synthetic leather.
everything comes from China, and the people that make it come from China,
Yes.
and the instructions
In Chinese.
are in China. So we are doing good.
If you
for this
are
whole-
lucky, they give you distributorship.
Distributorship? No. Why would they give you distribution? You can buy it just like everybody else. If you're lucky.